Appreciate it. Brett Yormark today at Big 12 Media Days for women's basketball, mentioning and just reiterating that Texas and Oklahoma are through 24-25. One, are you surprised at that, even though they say they're going to stay? And did you ever think they would actually do that when the announcement came a week last summer?
Yeah, so, again, like all of this, it's been extremely fluid. And I would just say as recent as maybe a couple months ago, we thought that there might be a window where they would leave early, a year early, not 2 years early. And that for a lot of reasons, and reasons I can't disclose, that didn't work out, didn't happen. And so, I feel pretty certain that they'll be here through the 24 football season, the 24-25 academic year. When all this happened, a year ago or more than a year ago, if you look back, Oklahoma and Texas, and I would say both presidents, both athletic directors, publicly stated that they would be here throughout the end of the grant of rights, throughout the end of the TV contract. And so, that's where we're at, and that's what we're counting on.
If you don't mind me clarifying this, and I know that there are exit fees, no matter what. There are whatever. The grant of rights runs out at the end of 24-25. Is there still going to be, in your opinion, when all this is said and done, not just the exit fees, but will there be other penalties, or can you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, if they, stay till the end, right, contractually, the only thing that would be due would be the termination fees. And so there would be, no grant of rights penalty, but yes, there'd be a termination fee for both institutions.
Mack, is there some benefit to a 14-team league for 2 years, seeing as it will allow you to kind of figure out what scheduling could be, should that be the permanent number, or at least part of what a permanent number could be in the Big 12 in the ever-fluid, changing world of college athletics?
Yeah, I think it's, Paul, a fair question. I don't mean to be flippant. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it really matters all that much. I think, the biggest decision we have ahead of us, right, is divisions versus one division. And I think that's really going to be the exercise for us, whether it's, 12, 14 or 16 sometime in the future. So, those are things that we can continue to talk about and work through. And I think right now we're in a good place, and, I think it's the right thing. We're focused on just these next 2 years with, Oklahoma and Texas. And then once, they exit, then, we'll rethink it. And do we have the right formula? And okay. By the way, and apologize for continuing to go on. But by the way, there's factors that influence all of that, including, new TV deal, TV partners, plus, CFP going from 4 to 12.
Mack, what are the conversations like when coming up with a schedule? What are some of maybe the intangibles as far as how all of that works that maybe us observing on the outside don't quite understand? We're like, hey, just release the schedule already. Like, what kind of goes into the inner workings of that?
Yeah, there's a lot, and there's an algorithm, a computer, right, that's certainly much smarter than me, but we take into account, rivalries and, what are key rivalries that we need to keep alive. We take into account travel, and, you think about the addition of the four. Well, 3 of the 4 are fairly long road trips. When you think about Central Florida, Cincinnati, and BYU. And so, how does that factor in, particularly if you have to play 2 of those of those institutions, and you've got West Virginia, so let's include them in terms of long travel. So, if you've got to play 2 of the 4 in a particular year on the road, how does that work into it? Believe it or not, there's a formula in there in terms of competitiveness, and we take a look at historically how teams are performed, and I think that's probably the hardest piece of it is this idea of competitive balance, because you look at the league, this year, and there's some institutions that maybe traditionally you could say haven't been very strong, and all of a sudden, they're in the upper half of the Big 12, and good for them. And so there's a lot of those pieces. Who did you play last year, right? So who did we play? Meaning this year, 2022. How does that work into the 23 schedule? And then TV partners. Do they have are they able to weigh in? And so that can be, I'm not saying it always is, but that can be a factor as well. So there's a handful of all of those things that you're thinking about.
Matt,
I think
I'm sorry.
The sequence, no, I was going to say, it's probably less about who you play, and it's more about the sequencing of games and where they fall on your calendar and the bye week and back-to-back games and all of that. So the sequencing piece is the really, really important part of putting the schedule together.
You play Kansas 11 o'clock Saturday. It's homecoming weekend for you. And I know the networks make the decisions, and they have to go with what they think is the game at specific levels, times, whatever. Is there ever, and I don't even know if it is, but is there ever consideration, for example, when it's homecoming weekend? I'm not one that cares whenever you kick off. We're going to be there. We're going to cover it, whatever. But is there ever a consideration on something like this weekend when you have homecoming that an 11 o'clock game makes people have to get up to go to a parade like it's 6 o'clock in the morning?
Like when it's dark. And so, yeah, bring your flashlights. Yeah, we can put in the request and ask for consideration, and look, I think sometimes, it's given, but, probably more times than not, especially in today's TV world, it's about ratings, matchups, time of day, all of those things. And so, it is, I'm not going to say otherwise. It's hard to play 11 a.m. game for homecoming. And, it's hard for all of the people that work really, really hard in terms of putting homecoming together. It's hard on our fans. But that's college football today. And, we'll still have a tremendous homecoming, a great crowd, and it'll be a great football game.
Mac, part of that is that you've got an improved Kansas team coming in here that is nobody's doormat anymore. They're super fun to watch, as is the whole league. How did all of a sudden the football side of this become like basketball, where there's no freebies in the league anymore?
Yeah, that's Paul's a great question. And, I think when you look at, 1 to 10 right now, there's some just really, really good football coaches in our league. And I think, across the board, every one of the Big 12 institutions has made a commitment to football. And, I think Kansas just, announced a $300 million, project to enhance their football facilities. We're breaking ground on a football operations center. And so I just think, every institution has been very intentional about investing in football, and you're starting to see it pay off. And, I would just say 1 through 10, there's not a more competitive league in the country right now.